I grew up on a dairy farm in Connecticut, and my goal was to have a dairy farm someday, and I missed my goal and went to the University of Connecticut and did a degree in animal science with emphasis in dairy, and then went to graduate school because I thought I might like to learn some more and go into extension. Then got involved in research and have enjoyed it ever since. My research at graduate school at Michigan State, I worked with Harold Hafs, and we did a lot of work looking at capacitation in the rabbit, looking at the changes that a sperm cell must undergo in order to develop the ability to fertilize an egg. Then we did a lot of work with looking at growth of follicles and synchronization of estrous cycles in dairy cows. When I first came to Oklahoma State, I didn't have an opportunity to work with cattle, and so for the first 6 or 8 years I did a lot of work with swine. A major problem was heat stress because the pig doesn't sweat very well, and so we looked at methods to increase fertility in the pig during exposure to those hot days that we have here in Oklahoma and in a lot of places in the south. So we did a lot of heat stress work to start with, and eventually I became more involved in working with beef cattle, and now beef cattle are my major species of emphasis now. Well, when we first started, we had different tools to use. I can remember as a graduate student, we used bioassays to measure hormones in animals. And then with the development of radioimmunoassays, we had the opportunity to do a more detailed analysis of endocrine function of animals so that we could try to improve the performance of the animals as we understood control of reproduction and growth processes in them. Well, I think I can think of two that might have had a major influence on me. One was Dr. Bill Pickett, who was at the University of Connecticut, and when I was a freshman, I was in the orientation class, and the assistant dean was teaching the class, and he said that there's this fellow that's looking for a student to work in his laboratory, and so to wash dishes. Did a lot of dishwashing in those days, and so before all the disposable glass. And so I went to work with Dr. Pickett, and for 4 years as an undergraduate student I worked in his lab, got exposed to research and got an understanding of why people do research and how it's done. And this had a major impact on me in that I became very interested in reproduction and thought about graduate school. He and Al Cowan, who was department head at Connecticut, also influenced a lot of students. In our class, there were probably about a dozen that were finishing up with a degree with emphasis in dairy when I did. And of those 12, 5 of us went on to graduate school and got PhDs in reproduction. So I think you can see the major impact those two individuals had on many of us. And of course, then when I went to Michigan State University, worked with Harold Hafs and Alan Tucker, wonderful experiences, and this really continued my interest in doing research and having fun doing research. Well, we have many challenges in the animal industries like other industries. You know, if we think about the major ones, major one, of course, would be feeding the world and that we're going to need more protein. Another would be what are we going to do about energy? As we look at the cost of energy increasing, it's going to be more expensive to do some of the things that we do in animal agriculture. Another one would be water. And so if we think about 3 major ones, producing food, energy, and water, these are things that we really need to be concerned about in the future. I think that, again, one of the things that's going to be difficult is how do we find funds in order to do those things that are necessary in order to accomplish those goals so that we can feed the world. Oh, I think it has a tremendous effect because remember, if we don't have an animal, we don't have anything to grow, and we don't have anything to harvest to feed the world. And so there are many opportunities. If we think about what's been done in the past, the big discoveries have been made. In other words, those things that have major impact, that we might increase pregnancy rate in cattle or pigs by 10 or 15%. Now what we need to do is to go back and refine those discoveries and look at the small things look at those things that might increase performance by 1%. And so it's more difficult, so we have to use different tools, more sensitive tools, in order to go and evaluate and identify those things that become important. We're going to have to look at how can we be more efficient. We've been wasteful in use of energy. We've been wasteful in use of feedstuffs. And so any way that we can improve the efficiency of utilization of resources, this again is going to be real important, because we can use the same animal land mass but produce more, and this is what we're going to have to do. And we have done it. If we look at the great accomplishments we've made in growth rate in animals, if we look at the great accomplishment in milk production, it's unbelievable what's happened in the last 50 years. And so we just need to try to go and improve in the future. Again, we can't expect as big of changes as we've seen in the past, but we still have opportunities to make improvements. There's some wonderful opportunities to work in the animal scientists. Things have changed a lot. Earlier, a lot of research was supported by the state institutions, and now it becomes necessary to be competitive nationally in order to have enough funds to do the types of research that you'd like to do. And so you have to develop a good base and have a real interest in what you're doing, because it's something that you have to be dedicated to in order to be successful. It's not something that you can do 8 to 5 days a week. It's a full-time job, and so it has to be fun. And if you find that it's fun, it's a great opportunity for you.